Thanks, Michael. We're going to switch slide decks just a little bit here. As a quick background, Plante Moran Cressa is one of the 4 demographers recognized by the Department of Treasury to provide enrollment projections for school districts here in the state of Michigan. We currently serve over 55 districts across the state, including some right here in southeast Michigan. I want to kind of give you a background a little bit of how we do enrollment projections, talk a little bit about some of the trends that we're seeing here in Ferndale schools, and really look at a grade level analysis. And then we'll kind of dovetail that into that further conversations. So in terms of the pupil enrollment projections, everyone should recognize the black polygon. This is the school district map for the Ferndale schools. And one of the things we're able to do is take a look within that and do demographic review in terms of geographical informational systems, U.S. Census Bureau, Labor Department, and other government agencies, and really compare that primary area, which is Ferndale Public Schools, to maybe what's happening in Oakland County and ultimately to the state of Michigan. And one of the tools that we utilize is what's called the Cohort Survival, or your DS 4061 form. So every fall, the district has what's called Count Day, and that is reported up to the state of Michigan. There's also a Count Day in the spring, and they take the average of those numbers, and again, that's how the districts are funded on a per pupil basis. So we actually take a look at not just the live births and the DS 4061, which is your cohort from first grade to second grade to third grade to fourth grade, but we also look to see what's happening within the demographics. Currently, there's only 3 districts in Oakland County that are showing significant growth. These are Novi, South Lyon, and Clarkston. They have a lot of ample land to build a lot of houses. We know that Ferndale is very well built out. So we're able to, again, take a look at these 4 data points and really come up with an analysis of what has been for the last 7 years, as well as do a 5-year projection. As Dr. Wilmot indicated, last year the state of Michigan lost 80,000 students in K-12. In the last 10 years, the state's lost over 400,000 students. They're not moving out of the state, they're just not being born. This shows basically since 1990 of what's happening in Oakland County as a whole. In 1990, there was over 17,000 births. The next highest was actually in 2000 with 16,253 live births. And we're all the way down to roughly 13,000 in 2014. Again, this is a systemic issue really since 2000, 2001 of just a declining birth rate. Pew Research, who's been tracking this since 1920, said last year was the lowest birth rate on record. It's actually half of what it was during the baby boomer years. So how does this affect Ferndale schools? And I believe this entire presentation, both of them will be online tomorrow. So again, I know this is hard to see maybe some of the detail. But what this chart shows is the last 7-year historical data within Ferndale schools. And again, this is the resident only. So Ferndale is a school of choice. And I believe over 50% of the 3,000 students reside outside of the district boundaries. But one thing we're able to see here in the trends is in 2003, there was over 15,394 births. Ferndale Public Schools, the incoming kindergarten class, picked up 1% of those live births. In a 6-year period, there's been over a decrease of over 2,000 births. Ferndale's capture rate is still right around that 1% number of those residents that live within that geographical boundary. If you take a look where the district was in K-12, you're over 2,000 students. There's been a decline of over 394 students, so we're at 1,694 residents who currently go to school here in Ferndale. One of the things that you may hear is, well, we lose a lot of students after elementary school as they go into the middle school. Consistently, for the last 6 years, there's actually been an increase from that 6th grade class going into the 7th grade. You heard about other districts. So Citizen Research Council, they track a lot of this information as well. If you take a look at the 553 districts in the state of Michigan, 43% had a decline of 0 to 10%, 25% had a decline of 10 to 25%, and 3% had declines greater than 25%. So unfortunately, Ferndale's not alone. You see a lot of activity. For instance, Royal Oak several years ago went from 2 high schools to 1. Bloomfield Hills is going from 2 high schools down to 1. Farmington Hills shut down 6 schools 3 or 4 years ago. I know West Bloomfield, so this is a process that's been done predominantly in reaction to that live birth rate decrease over the last 10 years. This here is kind of more of a graphical trend, but I think the bullet points on the left and the right kind of provide the analytics. So if you take a look at the 2014, kind of by grade level, there is going to be a decrease again to that level of students based on the live birth. So what do you do with this information? Because again, you receive funding based on the students, and then you look at the facilities that you have going forward. So one of the things that a lot of districts take a look at is, how am I utilizing my buildings? You want to obviously keep classroom count down, but at the end of the day, am I utilizing all the classrooms throughout the facility and throughout the district? We take a look at what are the educational goals of the district, what's the functionality of each of the classrooms and the buildings, what's the operations for that, and what's the cost of improvements, and then really break it down by grade level, location, and then costs. The one thing I want to show here is, here's your 11 facilities that are currently in place, and we'll get to some further detail. But what's interesting is you have over 862,000 square feet of space. You are the largest landowner and building owner usage of space in the Ferndale area. You have 247 classrooms for general education. If you were to run an analysis at roughly 28 students per classroom, you'd be able to accommodate roughly 5,800 students. I heard someone say they graduated from this Ferndale High School in the 70s or 80s. I believe the high school used to have over 2,100 students at one time. So again, that's the types of information we're looking for. So taking this information of the number of classrooms, the square footage, the acreage, this is the enrollment, which is shown in blue, to our capacity. Very evident that we have a capacity issue. We have more square footage than we would currently need with our current student population. So again, that kind of supports that sustainability leg. How do we right-size the facilities to support our current enrollment? Because every dollar that's spent on heating it, cooling it, maintaining it, et cetera, is a dollar that's taken away from the educational programming. So with that, I think we're going to switch gears a little bit into, I think, some of the opportunities. So.